Hey, excuse me. $10 or mystery box?
All right. All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And as you can see in the title, maintain. Okay, maintain. And this is inspired by a thought that came to mind, and actually a list of different precepts. But the main thought that came to mind was maintenance. Okay, in the sense that, when you're, especially in this ministry, like the apostles and brothers have said numerous times, that it's not a sprint. It's more of a marathon, meaning that you have to be able to pace yourself and maintain yourself as you go forth day by day in doing the work of Yahweh Basham Yahweh Shai. And so that is the main that was the main idea behind this lesson. Now I also wanted to do a slight response to two videos really that the elder brother Amawan Gabar had done. I watched I watched the fullness of the first one. I didn't finish the second one, but as we've all heard by now, you had the whole IUIC so-called Passover. Um, the whole stuff that went on there, which I've linked both of these videos in the description box, so you can get access to them and watch them. Good videos, get edified. But yeah, man. One thing that the elder brother mentioned, I think it was in this video, but he asked the question. He said, "Whose Passover is it?" Okay, whose Passover is it? Now, I mean, all I'm gonna say is, hey, this is definitely a scary thing to witness, that the Lord can put a spirit like that on an individual. Because seeing that, coming in on that horse, and just all that stuff, I mean, personally, that would make me very uncomfortable. When you have all eyes just looking at you, all eyes in the room on you, that's like an uncomfortable feeling. You'd rather just want to blend in with the crowd. But I mean, for some people, they'd rather that. Now it's to the point now where the issue is, for Passover, the main focus, okay, of the Passover, the reason we have these holy days is to call to remembrance the essence of the day. Okay, why do we celebrate the feast of dedication, or why do we keep the Passover, or these different holy days? When you read in the scriptures, it tells you that there was a precedent, right? The first time such and such happened, and after that, every year we would keep this day holy in remembrance of whatever the event was that set this holy day. And when you go back to the Passover, you have two major events. Okay, the first one obviously being the actual essence of the Passover, which was when the death angel of the Lord, passed over us while we were in Egypt, right? And the Lord had passed over us and slew the firstborn of all the Egyptians. Okay, and then you have the time of Yahushua, where he was the Passover, the sacrificial lamb that was put to death. So the importance of keeping the Passover is also in the spirit that you keep it in. And the main focus and the main attention should be on Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, not any one of us. So because now when you, guess what, when you think about an event like this, right? I'm sure a lot of the people that attended that likely wouldn't have left with a solemn spirit, thinking of Yahweh Shai. They more than likely, when they think about IUIC's 2023 Passover, are going to think about how Nate came in on a horse, and how quote unquote glorious their apparel and attire was, and how grandiose that whole situation was, and all of that. Okay, that's one thing, but then what about Yahushua? What about the things that he suffered on that night? Like that should be the main focus, because when you think about that and you're in that solemn spirit, it keeps your mind right. It puts everything back in perspective as to what we're really in this for, as to the love that Yahushua had for us or has for us, to do that, to do such and such. That gives us the strength that, hey, he prayed to the Lord 3 times for the Lord to take that cup away, and the Lord didn't. And guess what? He still went through it. These are that's the kind of spirit, okay, that the Passover should come with. But hey, once again, like I said, these are just examples, to show us that, hey, we gotta not do things that way. Okay, the Lord has examples of how to do things the right way, and then he has examples of how not to do things the right way, and they're constantly out here. But it's a scary thing. Okay, so leading into the topic of maintain or maintenance, as the Apostle Paul said, let me get that real quick. It's very important that as you continue to strive in this ministry, that you are maintaining that positive level, okay, of diligence. Let's see, examine yourselves. Oops. Yeah, this is 2 Corinthians 13 and 5. It says, examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Yahushua HaMashiach is in you, except ye be reprobates. So you have to prove your own self. You always have to check yourself to see, there should be certain checks that you're always making sure that are passing when it comes to your works or your purpose or the duty that you serve in the ministry of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushua. Checks, okay, what do you look like on this? Like your car dashboard, you have the different lights that come on. There's a check engine light, there may be the gas cap light, different things that come on and they alert you. And you're supposed to have some form of a mechanism like that where you're constantly checking. You get your car serviced, you go and change your oil, and you're able to do that when you're driving. You can tell when you need an oil change. Well, in this truth, you got to be like that. That way you can make, if you feel your car needs an oil change, you never change the oil. It's wearing down, you never get it serviced. You don't get a car wash. You don't, the battery is weak and all of these things. You're not going to be able to maintain that car, and before long it's going to break down. But just like a car, with our journey in this ministry, you got to constantly check, okay, where are you lacking? Where can you improve? That's what you want to do. You want to always make sure that you're doing that. And for some, you're already doing what you're supposed to be doing. Right? For some, you every time you perform that check, okay, you're good here, you're good here, you're good here. You got to maintain that. Right? When you first come into the truth, your main focus is learning, understanding the milk, learning the breakdowns, correcting the ways that the things that you used to do in the world that you didn't know that you shouldn't have been doing. You're trying to flee from those and adjust and renew your mind. So there's a lot going on there. It's almost like you're playing catch up. But then after a certain period, you start to learn, you start to become rooted. Then it goes from, okay, it's not so much new things that you're learning, but now it's sort of just continuing to maintain what you have learned now. Now you've got the rhythm. So now you're continuing to maintain that rhythm. And that's very important, because that's when the endurance really begins. Right? You've done the test runs and everything. Now the endurance really begins. Everything you've learned, now you continue to go. All right. And that's very, very important, because that's how you make it to the end. If you endure, if you maintain those good works, because you may start off doing good, but if you fall off, that's it. You may start off doing bad and never get good. And that's also it. But once you catch that rhythm, okay, of all right, this is how I'm doing it. It's going well, and you can tell when the Lord is displeased with you versus when He is pleased with you. You can tell when you are doing what you ought to do versus when you're not. So this is where you want to build those good habits. You know, habits are things that you can actually you can build. You know, you make sure you do these things. Okay, and then it becomes a norm. It sticks with you. So you want to build those good habits that'll put you in a good place where Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Now, leading back to the first point I made, this is one of the precepts that came to mind, right? Which is Ecclesiasticus 10 and 18. It says, pride was not made for men, nor furious anger for them that are born of a woman. Why was pride not made for men? Because what do we have to be proud of? We're imperfect creatures. Okay, there's, you know, literally, see, when you become proud, it's almost like putting a spotlight on yourself. And the thing that people don't see about putting a spotlight on yourself is that's when all your weaknesses, your impurities, that's when they really get magnified, because now you become scrutinized, because now everybody's looking at you. So that's when, oh wow, I never noticed his nose was that big. Shit. You know, or did he always have that mole under his chin? You know, that's when they start to really see it, because now the whole spotlight is on you being scrutinized. You don't want that, because you're here on stage as though, you know, you got all this going on, but as the Lord said, all our righteousness is as filthy rags. So really, the spirit that we're supposed to be in, pursuant to Micah, what's that, 7:7 and 9? I have sinned against the Lord. I have sinned against my power. I will bear the indignation of my power because I have sinned against him. So we're in the mindset of being serious, okay, and really being fearful, because Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is about to turn up. He's about to turn up real quick, hot and heavy, hot and heavy. Now this is the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9. It says, "And let us not be weary in well doing." Now, when you're weary, let's look up what the BLB gives us for the word weary. So weary, it says, what's that? Ekakeo, to be utterly spiritless, to be wearied out, exhausted. Now, there are a couple of ways that this can happen to you, right? Which is one where you burn yourself out. You do too much. You're overzealous, and then it starts to work against you. And the scriptures talk about that, right? Be not over much righteous. So that's where you have to maintain. Sometimes you're running too fast and you got to slow down a bit. Sometimes you're running too slow and you got to speed up a bit. So there's a balance on both sides. You can be weary in the aspect of you're not in the spirit enough. So whenever it comes time, you're like, oh, now I got to go to camp, or oh, now I got to do a video. You know, you're feeling tired and worn out when you haven't really been doing much, and that's because your mind is not in the right place. So you need to check yourself. You need to pray. You need to fast and recharge. But then you can also have the weariness on the other side of the scale, where you're doing too much and you're burning yourself out. It is not human nature, or really healthy, to just sit and do one thing. If you say, I'm going to sit down, the scriptures say, blessed is he that readeth. Does that mean 24/7, 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, you're just going to sit down and read? Obviously not. Everything needs a balance. Okay, you're going to do lessons, you're going to be diligent. Does that mean 24/7 every single day you're going to go out at 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. and go out and read scriptures? You're gonna wear yourself out, and then you're gonna be weary on that front, where now you're just exhausted. The scriptures tell you that much study is weariness of the flesh. So you need to balance it out to where you're doing things effectively, but you're not overdoing it. So you can do it right, and you can do it for a long period of time, because we're in this for the long run. We don't get to stop. We stop when the finish line gets here. So as it says, and let us not be weary in well doing. So that goes into how you balance yourself out. Because what we're doing right now is considered well doing: preaching the gospel, being diligent, being humble, fearing Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, doing what pleases the Lord, not what pleases man, but what pleases Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. These are all a part of well doing. And as teachers, first and foremost is learning and going to teach. Ezekiel the 3rd chapter. right? Eating the whole roll, which represents learning and understanding the scriptures, and then going out to teach. And why did the Apostle Paul say this? Because he goes on to say, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. So there's the reward is guaranteed, but that's if you can get there. That's if you don't faint. That's if you endure unto the end. And if you are able to endure unto the end, then the reward is there, right? But that's why you have to maintain that level of good works. All right, you don't want to have a good starting point and your latter end be shameful. So I put in the word or the phrase "he that overcometh," and these are the precepts that came out, pretty good ones. So let's go through a couple of them real quick. Okay, and Lord willing, it will be a quick exhortation video, because you need those exhortations every so often. But it's also important to always look at yourself in a balanced perspective. What am I not doing enough of? What am I doing too much of? Am I staying away from things I shouldn't be doing? Okay, but am I doing the things that I should be doing? They're two sides to the spectrum. It's not just, well, I'm staying away from the things I shouldn't do, but then you're also required to do certain things. So are you doing those? Right? So there's the do's and there's the don'ts, and you got to do both. Stay away from the don'ts and do the do's. So this is 1 John 5:5. It says, who is he that overcometh? Oh, actually, no, that's not the one. Revelation 2:11. Let me start there. So this is Revelation chapter 2, verse 11. It says, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. Now, he that hath an ear is it's a dark saying, if you want to, for lack of a better word, because having an ear is not literal in this sense. Okay, this means he that has his spiritual eyes opened. Okay, his spiritual ears have been opened to understand. Because not everybody can understand this. The scriptures say that the certain things are spiritually discerned, and they that are carnal, they can't receive those things. So when it talks about having an ear, it means having that spiritual ear, the ability to understand, having your mind opened to be able to understand the true message of the scriptures. So he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. So that's point number one. At the finish line. What is at the finish line? Fire. Fire and salvation. But if you overcome, and what is that gonna entail? That's gonna entail maintaining those good works. It's gonna entail maintaining your faith. It's gonna entail not taking the MOTB, not giving into that temptation, because that's gonna be the major test. And remaining loyal to the Lord, because right now we're in the phase of diligence. These are the do's. The phase right now we're in consists of a lot of do's, things you should be doing. You got to go out there and teach. You got to do your lessons. You got to read the scriptures. You got to stay in the Spirit. Do these things that you have to do and endure and maintain those good works. But eventually we're going to get to the point where the famine of the word hits, and now there's no more going out to teach. Ain't no more doing videos. Okay, there's no more of that. And now it's the real endurance begins. Now where your life is on the line, you're being tempted on all different fronts. That's when the don'ts really come up. Don't take the MOTB. Don't sell out your brothers. Don't give in and betray the Lord. Don't, all of these different things. But he that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. And the second death is that thermonuclear destruction. So if you overcome, as is also written in Revelation 20th chapter, you will be delivered, and the second death will have no power over you. But in order to get to that point of overcoming, you got to endure. And in order to endure, you got to maintain. And in order to maintain, you got to examine yourself. Revelation 2:26, it says, and he that overcometh, once again, and keepeth my works. So really, what are we doing? We're doing the Lord's works. These ain't our works. These are the Lord's works. The things the work he has given us to do. Really, that's what we're doing. And that's why it's so important to make sure that it's about the Lord and not about you. Because when it gets to that point, it's like getting hired to work for somebody, and instead of doing what they're assigning you to do, you are trying to do your own thing on the job. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to say, look, my man, you working for yourself or you working for me? If you working for me, you're going to do this. If not, you can leave, you're fired, but you're free to go and do your job, whatever you want to do. You go do that. You go figure out your own payroll, and your own business and all of that. But don't do that over here. So eventually, what was really going to happen is a lot of people about to get fired. Not like they were really hired in the first place. Well, really, you could say they were, but they were hired for a different job. See, but what you got, you got a lot of janitors posing as, sales associates and stock associates and CEOs and all that. But then the Lord's going to come down and say, wait, hold on, your name ain't on the list of CEOs or in the list of managers. Revelation 2:26, it says, and he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. See? So you're not going to be hurt of the second death, and the Lord is going to give you power over the nations. That is authority, rank, and physical, spiritual power. Revelation 3:5, he that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. Can you imagine that? Like today, somebody gives you a shout out. That's one thing. But imagine Yahushua confessing your name. What? Before the Father and his angels. So he's making it, he's declaring it, standing up for you in the heavens. And at that point, I mean, that's final. It doesn't go any higher than that. What more than to get validation, okay, by the Father because of the Son? The Son says, look, such and such, such and such. I mean, shit. Verse 7, Revelation 21:7, it says, he that overcometh shall what? Inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. So there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of pros and pluses that come with it, with overcoming. But it's a step-by-step thing. All right. There's still a ways to go, but you got to maintain yourself. You got to maintain that balance, which involves checking yourself. Okay, and involves, constantly examining yourself and making sure that you're staying on the right path and not falling down the wrong path and picking up bad habits instead of good ones, because it will affect you in the long run. Okay, so that was pretty much it. Lord willing, that was edifying and exhorting to the elect. We're pretty much almost there, as you can see, with all the different, literally the world is changing right before our eyes. A couple of years ago, this whole CBDC stuff wasn't out there like it is now. If you notice the real talks in the atmosphere, this is like a straight out of what they would call a conspiracy theory book. But now we're living it here in 2023. It's all happening before your eyes, literally. And it's just a matter of time before, if we're still allowed to do these videos, we'll be speaking about how the CHIP is literally out here and there are people taking it, and how we really just got just a few whatever time left. So, things are moving, man. Things are moving. Anyway, with that, Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha, Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.